Yeah, I think what's interesting here is that we have a set of people who come from different places in Europe with different perspectives on how media can build a relationship with tech. And I think here I'd like to understand the idea of tech as in a very broad sense, not only engineering, but tech as a social, political, economical map upon which we all have to evolve. The goal of this discussion is first to try and review that space and the state we are in as media with regards to technology, and then present current and maybe future hopeful alternative path to tech for media, and how and why we can build sort of independence. I'll present the members of this panel, starting from the left. Julia Hildebrand is the project lead of beabee at CORRECTIV. CORRECTIV is a German media house oriented towards public good, and their aim is to strengthen democracy by having journalism, research, fact-checking, and also building tech. beabee is a project that was, it's an audience engagement software that was built by CORRECTIV and with other media organizations, such as, the Bristol Cable. It's used internally, but it's also distributed both as a software as a service and open source software. We then have Ximena Villagrán, who is the Chief Operating Officer at Maldita. It's a Spain-based non-profit foundation that also builds information integrity in the public sphere with also journalism, research, fact-checking, and also building tech. Maldita has built a very broad and diverse set of tools, very interesting ones, for both their audience engagement and reach, and also internal investigations, internal processes. They have also reached the point where they are a tech provider to other organizations. We then have Maryna Smahina, who is a senior editor at Rubryka, and Rubryka is a co-founder of Recovery Window, a Ukrainian network that gathers and unites over 130 media organizations across Ukraine, which is, they operate both as a media support network, but also a platform aggregator, a visibility aggregator for news that regard the recovery and rebuilding of Ukraine. Their work helps strengthen especially local journalism across Ukraine by giving them visibility and resources. And finally, we have Felix Hlatky, who is the Chief Financial Officer of Mastodon. Mastodon, if perhaps you know about it, it's a European open source software platform that allows to build a social network similar to Twitter or Blue Sky. It's open source and it's an open protocol. I think we can think of Mastodon as a general technology allowing to build in very diverse ways a different and more transparent information ecosystem. Let's dive into the discussion. I'd like to start with a diagnosis on, okay, so we're all media professionals here, so we all know that our organizations rely on a very broad set of technological systems. We have, of course, for those who have them, websites, apps, we have CMS, CRM, CDP, and a lot of acronyms for different softwares that we use internally, that we use to reach our audiences. We use tech as well. I mean, the platform we operate on, and by platform I mean both the web, social networks, but also direct contact, such as newsletters and so on, with our audiences. We use tech to make revenue, some of us do. We use tech softwares to have subscriptions or membership-based models for ad revenue as well. And finally, and I think it's very important as well, we obviously use tech to gather information from the simplest Google search to the most advanced OSINT techniques, and also with the ways we can get hints and leaks from our community. Given all that, it's a lot of dependencies. And given that the skills and resources needed to build this kind of tech is quite rare and expensive, I want to ask, why should media invest in tech at all? And I'm going to start with Julia and Ximena. If you could explain maybe to us how your organization has approached this idea of building tech. And maybe Julia, you can start.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Zako, for the introduction. So at CORRECTIV, I think I would emphasize maybe 3 things that kind of define our approach. And the first one you kind of already mentioned, that we actually added building civic tech to our mission as what we do. Like, we do investigative journalism, but we also do media literacy programs, but we also build tech because the technologies that we use are also, like, we are media companies, we're not just journalism companies, and the technologies that we choose matter. And CORRECTIV is we kind of consider ourselves as a community journalism organization, so our focus is always on involving community and how we are funded. We're a non-profit, so we get a huge amount of our revenue through really direct community funding. All our content is freely available, so we don't put a price on the content itself. So having the right community tools that respect the data also of our users is very important. And so we've decided to basically focus on also building civic tech, and in that sense then community tools. And it's not just beabee, but we also have the crowd newsroom, which we integrated into beabee at some point. It was originally funded by Google, and at this point it's part of the same platform, same tech stack. It's all built on TypeScript. And then we've got Faktenforum as well, which is our fact-checking community platform, basically. So some of you might also heard of that. So really focus on these kind of technologies that help us build community, because communities and the direct contact with the people that we serve are our biggest asset, especially now when AI is gaining more and more ground, and we can't keep up, really. So we have to have these direct relationships. And we've made the mistake in the early days, for instance, to build our communities in Facebook groups and start conversations there, and understand, like, we had a big around one investigation, a group around the topic of health, and we lost all our context. So that was a very early learning that we had, and we knew we had to change something there. And then the second piece of our approach is that we share what we build. So we want to empower others as well to build based on our tech, but also build in a way that others can also use our technology. And with that, I hope that we can also kind of build a grassroots movement. I'm very focused with my tool on local journalism, very small local independent players. So if they implement this independent data-conscious technology in their communities, they also raise awareness around the topic. And it's kind of my idea in the long term, very long term, is also to build kind of grassroots movement in that way. And our most recently launched newsroom in Gelsenkirchen, for instance, we've decided, for instance, to build the website with Ghost. Though it was a bit of a risk for us, it wasn't what we knew well, but we knew that if we use Ghost, it's a platform that also other small media will be able to use, rather than using something more complicated. And then the third thing is that we then, of course, to do that, decided to build an in-house tech department, and we, basically decided we have to just have this expertise in-house as well. So in the past, for building these little pockets like Crowd Newsroom, for instance, we've been using agencies first to build that, and you end up with something that's kind of stitched together, and different people have been working on it, and you don't think about longevity of the platform really. But in order to be able to also share it out, like I just said, we decide we have to have our own tech team, we have to have the expertise in-house, and go down that route.
Wonderful, and I really appreciate what you're saying about building tech as also a way of building a community and a network. I feel like it's probably true of what you mentioned with other organizations. Even within an organization, what I've experienced is that a project, tech project, is not only the outcome of it, but also all the process where people from across the newsroom will talk with each other in a context that it's perhaps unfamiliar and different, and making other links. I'm thinking that for larger organizations. But Ximena, could you also tell us about your approach to this subject?
Yes. Well, our approach, basically, it was like kind of a lucky thing. We understood like the value of data since the beginning of our work. We were just a fact-checking media. We were all journalists, together with our CTO, that is David, and basically some of us were data journalists, and we decided that in order to do our work, it was really important to archive what we were debunking. So everything started like a solution for our internal work. A CMS that was for the market wasn't working for us because we needed to archive all the original content that we were monitoring from social media, but that we were also receiving from our users. So our approach was together the value of data, but also the value of our community. So that's the way we start like building for us. We never thought about revenue. We never thought about sustainability. We never thought about other people could use this. This was a thing that we were building, and we have been building in the last few years. So basically, we developed our own CMS that allow us to connect this to what we now call the DMS, that is the Disinformation Management System, that it's basically connected also with our CRM. So we built like a full package that allow us to do several things. On one side, publishing. Obviously, we need to publish our articles. But then we also have the inputs from our chatbots. We now have a company that basically creates chatbots for media organizations, for fact-checking organizations on WhatsApp, on Facebook, on Instagram. So we take all the inputs and tips that people is asking to us, and we measure if we should work on that according to the virality to serve our community. So basically with that DMS, what it allows us is to track disinformation tendencies, we track narratives, we see which is the approach we need to give, if this is important to put a journalist to work on, or if just is a thing that we believe it's important. So we are totally community-based in this. But together with that, we also have our CRM. We realized really soon that in Spain, people, it's not used to donate to media. They have memberships and whatever. So we changed the thing. It's okay if people give us money, but CRMs out there didn't work for what we wanted to do. We wanted to ask people to donate their knowledge to us. We need people to fight disinformation with us, and all people knows about something. So we create what we call a knowledge CRM, that it's basically a system that allows us to track the people that wants to donate their expertise on something. We verify their knowledge, and then we have a huge database of sources that are not around all media. They are not in TV, they are not in radio, and indirectly, we realized that we were working also on changing the voices that we hear in other media, because once we quote them, other radios, other TV stations start calling them. So that's basically what we have. Right now, our chatbots and our disinformation management system, it's being used in more than 20 organizations around the world, and we are building other things around them with AI for tracking narratives, monitoring systems that are like early warning systems for other companies and things like that. And we work in, I don't know, 20 languages. One of our clients is from India, and they work in 12 languages. So it's like a huge thing. And now it's part of our also sustainability plan once we realize other people could use this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like how both of you have described something that's very maybe unplanned, at least at first, some sort of organic process of simply saying, okay, I want to do this, and there's no available existing tool to do it, so I'm going to invest in that, and then this becoming perhaps a different approach and strategy in the long term, but we'll get back to this. Maryna, I think you have a different position on this, and in certain cases you advocate for less tech in order to get out of dependencies with platforms, and especially in the context of a country at war and the goal that the recovery window has of surfacing solution journalism and etc. How do you? What is your organization providing as resources and advice, to be less dependent on this invisibility of platform that is often happening?
Yeah, thank you for that question, and thank you all for being here. To start answering that, I think I first need to give you a little bit of context and like a reality check, because in Ukraine, many media outlets, especially small local ones, are really struggling to survive, and it's not this kind of long-term, mid-term perspective survival. It's very immediate, it's right now and here, not only in terms of funding, but like literally. So especially in the areas that are most affected by the war, recently deoccupied, etc., audiences, people who live there, locals, they face electricity blackouts, internet just disappears. They don't have that connectivity that we are used to having. So for many small local media outlets, the only way to reach out to their audience is through print newspapers. For example, what a concept, a print newspaper. Like who among us here, how often do you actually hold a print newspaper? But for many people in Ukraine, that's the only way to get their news, their information. And in certain cases, like an editor-in-chief of some newsroom can be driving around, literally delivering those papers. So that is the reality where we are. So it's not that the Recovery Window Media Network advocates for less tech, it's just where we are and the kind of the circumstances that we have to deal with. And in those circumstances, what the media network does is, first of all, the immediate support, as in sub-grants that help to cover the most necessary, the most basic needs of a newsroom, reporting, content creating, things like that. So that's the first thing. But then on the more technical note, there is also some tech support. For example, with creation of the aggregator, of course, every member of the network had to be connected to it somehow. And not every newsroom that had a website had a tech guy or girl or whoever to do that. So the network did that for them. And it's like the most basic thing, but it is what is needed. The other resources and things that help supporting these newsrooms, these media organizations under these circumstances are things like we provide this peer-to-peer space for them where they can exchange their experiences, exchange their expertise, because there are more like tech-savvy outlets within the networks. There are those who have less resources for that. And the network itself, the way it works, it is an aggregator, as you said, and it basically aggregates these stories created by its members, everything recovery, rebuilding of Ukraine related, and it helps to amplify their voices by repackaging and redistributing that content through the platforms that the Recovery Window Media Network has for those to reach to wider audiences, to be able to kind of compensate loss of audiences, again, because of all the infrastructural, logistical things, but also because of displacement. So there is a lot going on, yeah, I hope to be balancing out this conversation a little bit with the harsher realities that I'm sure many newsrooms in other countries also might be facing things like this. Maybe, well, not maybe, certainly not to this extent, but the lack of resources is not something that only Ukrainian newsrooms deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, first, to get back on print, my personal hot take is that print is the new digital, or the new... we'll see how it goes. But no, and actually what you were saying on the lack of resources, and it's actually a discussion we had the other day. I think that when we talk about the infrastructure needed for media in general, well, collaboration networks and exchanging knowledge and resources could be seen as an infrastructure in the sense of it's something that needs to be present in certain context for media to even exist. Yeah, sorry. Finally, Felix, on this topic, I think for you the question is a bit different because you're not, you don't represent a media company. You kind of represent actually the alternative tech that we're all mentioning. Yeah, my question for you is if the Mastodon is this general technology that aims at being a key component of all the systems we describe, why do you think Mastodon specifically is of interest for media companies?
Yes, thank you first of all for inviting me, and thanks for the question. Okay, so the question. So first of all, to put Mastodon into place. So a lot of technologies were mentioned that media organizations and newsrooms are using. So Mastodon is really in the distribution part. So getting the word out. So why should media care about this? I think. If you think of, so the name of this panel is Building Alternatives to Big Tech. If you think of what all these big tech social media platforms, and we call them more like legacy social networks, they have sold us this idea that we have some sort of ownership about this. You know, if you think of a Facebook page or a Facebook group, as it was mentioned in the CORRECTIV context, all of us, we probably signed up something like almost like 20 years ago to that, and you know, we had this opportunity of giving them our brand and the logo, and it felt like our Facebook page or our Twitter profile or something like this. Of course, also all the metrics behind it, you know, seeing the metrics go up and stuff like this, and obviously a lot of financial sustainability was created through that for media organizations. But what happened, and I mean, I don't want to go too much into this whole Elon Musk Twitter thing, because this is, you know, it's just one incident, and you know, you are all affected by it as much as Mastodon is affected by it. But the point I'm trying to make is that there was never any ownership of that. This was basically a concession of a for-profit company, a very large one at a certain point, to use that. But there was never this what we call, it's a bit technical, but what we call credible exit. So what credible exit means is you can credibly take this with you out of Facebook, out of X, whatever. And this is something that is just structurally and technically not possible. It never was. It was never sold like that. And Mastodon, among other networks or among other platforms, it was built on a completely different paradigm and with a completely different philosophy behind it. It was built on an open protocol. Protocol, it sounds very technical, but very briefly, in one sentence, what is the advantage of building this on an open protocol? That you can take everything you put on Mastodon, all the connections that you make, all the social graph, basically, all your followers, you can take them with you. And this is the true power of it, because Mastodon is not the only net. Mastodon is not a platform that locks you in, but it is one out of many, almost 100 projects and products that are built on this protocol. There's other other projects, that were mentioned. For example, Ghost, the popular content management system, quite recently implemented the same protocol, which means that social media posts on Mastodon and blog posts on Ghost are interoperable, and they can be seen on both platforms. And I think this is what if you think about this further, this is what is the true power behind it, more like from a connection point of view. It's actually much closer to owning a very valuable email distribution list. 100 email addresses that you own. They have subscribed. They have given you the allowance, basically, that you can email them. You, as media professionals, you know this much better than I do. Most likely that, for example, email is like a very valuable and actually surprisingly effective distribution tool. And I think it's actually this example of print, it sounds super counterintuitive that print could actually be effective, but this point I'm making is actually very, very close to the one that you just made, because and it's one thing that I haven't mentioned before. There's no algorithm in how anything is displayed on Mastodon. So this means that if you send something out, people will inevitably see it. And I think this is especially powerful together with the fact that we are like a non-profit organization without an advertising business model.
Part of what you said really reminded me that I feel like this was kind of this interoperability and freedom, in a way, was kind of the point of the internet in the first place, and that we let the Web 2, or whatever you want to call it, be very different from that initial point. So yeah, I think you've all described quite well the different approaches we can have on this very broad, actually, question. It's, of course, and at no point I would advocate for saying that we as media can build everything we need to operate. That wouldn't make any sense, and even the largest media companies cannot do that. So I think what you described is finding your priorities, defining your needs. I think every media organization has different needs, and that's also why we cannot simply rely on hegemonic tools and platforms that decide for us on what we can or cannot do. This brings me to kind of, so we describe a sort of, for some of us, a sort of organic process of building these things because simply they did not exist and we needed it for our work. How can this become more structural? How can you go from this to actually a strategy on tech, and or how you build it, or a non-tech strategy if it's not if it's your goal? So I think, yeah, my question, and also, yeah, the difference between the different choices you've made between open source software, not open source, sort of in between. So I think maybe a first question I would ask Julie and Felix both is, why do you build open source, and what is your understanding of your role in providing open source software? Julie.
Yeah, we just briefly talked about this. So we decided early on for beabee to build it open source. It is actually we built on existing open source code in the first place. So we teamed up with other newsrooms, including the Bristol Cable, and had to decide, okay, we knew we wanted to build this community engagement tool. We wanted the tool that we would love to have had ourselves from the very beginning, to also, for everybody to have that, to be able to get basically community revenue, so have the payment management system, have a CRM at the heart that can become the one source of truth of the activity and kind of expertise of our community members, so really understanding who are our members, what can they contribute, what have they already contributed money-wise, but also in terms of expertise networks, like volunteer time, you know, because we're talking about local media as well, who are working really hands-on. And we knew we wanted a kind of survey tool, which then became the crowd newsroom as well. So we got together with other media organizations, and the Bristol Cable had already started to build something, and they built on the code of the makerspaces, it was, in the UK. And that was our starting point, basically. And we also looked at other stuff. We looked at RAMP, for instance, who also built open source. They were also built with Google money, but it wasn't well documented. It wasn't the language that we wanted to build on. We transitioned very quickly to TypeScript as our code, I already said. So basically we already started like that, right? So it allowed us to be quicker, and then it allowed us as well to build like that, to quicker roll it out to other media organizations. But we can't really claim that we are proper open source or have a proper open source product. So we've got some users who are self-hosting beabee. There's a small newsroom in Wales, the Caerphilly Observer, and they are able, they self-host, and then they're able to build some stuff as well on top. So for instance, they decided for their members to have special access or to see their website with no ads. It's nothing that we offer, but they have built that themselves now. We're struggling, definitely, to have very good documentation, and we also haven't got the resources at the minute to build an open source community. So we don't have really contributors on our code. So it is something that we would love to do moving forward, and we are set up to do it. So we thought about from the beginning, and we made sure we set ourselves up like that. You can find our code on GitHub. But we're not there yet. So, but it's something that I see like we should just be doing as media organizations, and it would be great if we also look at what's already there before we start building something, and look at the open source code that's already out there. And for that, it's important, of course, to make that transparent and to be able to go somewhere where you can see what's actually happening, who's building what, where is the open source code that other media organizations can benefit from. So that's maybe something to look at.
I agree. There's a lot of open source projects existing everywhere, but sometimes it takes the time to research and find it. On that more sustainability question and how do you build a community, and my question to you, Felix, is and also because you're the chief financial officer of Mastodon, so how do you make that sustainable?
So the question is how
do you make an open source project? How do you finance it? How do you foster the community?
Yeah, it's a struggle, yes. But generally speaking, what has been very effective for us and also most important from a fundraising point of view is to have some sort of a funding mix from different sources. So we have early on been almost entirely been community funded. So actually from the user base. Around 5,000 to 6,000 individuals, they donate between €1 and €500 per month, basically, to bring this forward. But this in itself is unfortunately not enough. I mean, if you compare that maybe with Wikipedia or how Wikimedia makes money for them, it's like certainly enough what they make with this banner that we see once a year. for Mastodon, this has never been enough to build like a proper team. So there are probably 2 or 3 other sources I want to highlight. I mean, government grants. It's a very important one, but also actually from large donors. You could also say high net worth individuals. So these are more like successful entrepreneurs all around the world who are just annoyed with the current situation and annoyed about other ultra high net worth individuals destroying our democracies and media space. And lastly, something that we launched quite recently is actually commercial services. Commercial services always as a non-profit and open source company, it sounds a bit like sellout, but it's actually the opposite of this. It's that we, so Mastodon is a decentralized social network, which means that you can and have to host it yourself. If you want to have your own server, you can also join another server. But this also means, yeah, you have to host it yourself. And this is a technical thing to do, but it's also like a moderation. Moderation is needed, especially in large servers. This is it's a huge advantage if you think of running such a server. In an autocratic country, for example, or actually outside of this country, and being able to counter this, what is called deplatforming nowadays, so that oppressed minorities don't have a voice anymore in these large centralized platforms, and they can be brought to smaller community-driven networks like Mastodon. And we host these services for commercial clients of ours. Our first customer was the European Commission, for example, but there's also conversations with NGOs and also smaller communities that want to have their own servers. But we also have, for example, small French communities and municipalities that are clients of ours. And this obviously brings in revenue for Mastodon and for the project.
So you are a media company. What you need is revenue diversification, just
Yes.
like the rest of us. And so on that aspect, I wanted to ask Ximena, your tech strategy is becoming, has become a source of revenue. And I was wondering, since, as you presented, this was not necessarily the initial thought you had about it, how has it, the fact that it's becoming a revenue source, how has it changed the way you see it? And are you still building tools first for yourself? Or?
Well, basically, we are not a tech startup. It's like, it's complicated. At the end, we are journalists with engineers that could be getting a lot of money in another sector that is not this, and it's not media, because let's be honest, engineers that work in our sector, it's because they are kind of crazy and they have a mission in their lives, but they don't do it just because, whoa, it's great to work in media. So we don't work like that. It's like we have engineers that are focused and they know that this needs to be useful. Then the company that we have is totally owned by our nonprofit. The 100% of it, it's owned by the nonprofit. So we don't see this like a way to get rich. We work with different contexts in different countries. So it's strange to say it, but we don't have like close rates for our services, because we know that, for example, for Europe, paying, I don't know, 800 euros per month for a tool, it's okay. But then if we go, I don't know, with the Arab fact-checking network, Arabic uses our service. For them, 800 might be the salary of a journalist every month, and we cannot charge that. So we have discounts according to what country you are. In some cases, we just cover the cost of the servers and the tools that we are using. And for example, we make contracts like the full clients that are paying everything and whatever, they have 24 hours maintenance service. So if something is down, they need personalization and whatever, do it all the time. For the smaller clients in which we are just covering cost, we are being totally honest, saying, hey, you are paying this, so if you have an issue that it's not your service is not working, give us time, because we are a small team. It's like our full tech team has 6 people, and we do everything. We do Maldita's keep housing, like even like, I don't know, refurbish computers, and this is the same people, than providing the service to 20 clients. So it's really complicated, like, to think as a company that will really have revenue. We are happy that if at the end of the year, we get some money that could go back to the foundation and pay for our journalism. But we are not thinking this as a huge momentum. What we sell, and this is a part of the business, is the data. We are not talking about being tech providers, but data providers. So we have discovered that all the data that we are saving, it's really interesting, for example, for think tanks, universities that have like these huge investigation projects, so we sell databases to them. We sell the access to the API and things like that, or to companies that wants these alert systems and whatever. That part give our revenue. The tech part, it's not that strong with the revenue thing, because we know that there is a social interest behind it.
Mm. You know, what you say truly embodies a thought I've had for a long time, that, but it's a very optimistic thought, but that maybe media getting more involved in tech is, could be a way of having another way to build, an alternative way to build tech that is not constrained by the profit mindset of, and even the invasive mindset of the Silicon Valley. So, but maybe that's just wishful thinking. I think what we're starting to see is sort of a larger picture on going from more organic processes to actual new structures and new ways of organizing the company. And I feel like, as we all know, because tech in general really shapes more and more the public sphere and the information ecosystem and so on. It just makes sense to me that decisions regarding tech should be collective decisions and should be made by the public. In that regard, and also bearing in mind that we will, no matter our efforts, we will always be dependent on cloud providers, cable companies, and etc. It's not about gaining independence so much as gaining more firm ground on which to have political weight. I feel like getting involved in tech is also a way of having a say and having a place at the table as well. So yeah, I'm trying to think about how are we evolving, not only at the level of a single organization, but more generally in the sector to answer to that problem. And I feel like an answer you've given, but I would like to go deeper into that and ask Maryna, how do you think that, and Julia as well, how do you think that collaboration between media organizations is a way to reduce tech dependency?
Yeah, that's a great question. But first, may I address something that Ximena said?
Of course.
Because it just stuck with me. You have 6 guys. You have a 6-person team in tech. I mean, our one guy that we share with others.
I'm including the designer, the project manager. It's like 6 with engineers. We have 4. Yeah, no, 3. Yeah.
Okay, it's not a competition. You still have more.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, but we are a 60-people organization, so this is huge for the size of our organization. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I just had to let it out. Yeah. In terms of how collaborating with others might be useful, I think that that's really the key in what will be the future of the media landscape, because in our case, I think that being part of the network is actually something about sharing a burden, in a way. Not to say that, like, for example, the techno stuff is a burden, but it is hard. It is hard to cover these costs individually as newsrooms. So I think that in that sense, it is the biggest benefit from collaborating. Like, for example, I know that the recovery window, we are planning to launch an app, and that is something that will be, again, beneficial for everyone in the network and will be created through this collaboration. So the content will be provided by the members. The members will also collect audience feedback, etc., while the network develops the app itself. The team who works, who coordinates everything. So, yeah, that is a way forward, and not only in terms of tech dependence and tech development. Just in general, we are at this point where everything feels quite wonky in this field, and I think that uniting, as cheesy as it sounds, maybe, and like being there for your colleagues from other newsrooms is something that might save us all, because hearing, like, we are all here together for a reason, and you all came to this Congress for a reason, and I think that it's worth maintaining on a day-to-day basis as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and I wanted to ask kind of the same question to Julia as well, because you've started Full Stack Journalism, which is an initiative, not only you, but a group of other independent news organizations trying to build spaces where you can share expertise and so on. Briefly, could you say, like, explain what's the vision and where do you see this going?
Yes. So I started this initiative last year with some funding, some seed funding from the Stichting Democratie en Media from the Netherlands, and it was out of this experience that I had with beabee that I talked to different newsrooms about their tool choices. And for instance, we have this independent survey tool with the Crowd newsroom, and everybody, for convenience, just kept going to Google Forms because they know how it worked. And same as well with payment, provides some payment tools, and also, yeah, CRM. Not so many newsrooms are interested in yet, but I can really recommend look at how to use the CRM also journalistically. So I just kept hitting that wall of like, yeah, but it is more convenient and it is easier, and we have to also grow, and it's expensive, and we're small, and we don't have a team, and we don't have tech people on our team. So that's why I basically brought a few of these independent newsrooms together, and I came in very dogmatic, kind of like, let's put down some criteria, and this is the technology we want, and it needs to be open source and all data protecting, and we don't sell data, and it's in the Fediverse, and, you know, let's put down this criteria. But there was a huge pushback as well in that group. So we have to be pragmatic as well, and it is a very long process to do that. So we decided kind of on first step, what I said earlier, making it transparent, like collecting actually the information about the tools that are out there, and doing more work on raising awareness and showing people what's already there and what can already be used, but then also the idea of teaming up again to build the technology we need, maybe develop also together with funders new funding models for funding, building tech, but also maintaining the technology, because that's also a big thing. And full stack journalism has been started from CORRECTIV, but Our Europe have taken on the initiative now, and they are the ones now who are moving it forward. And at the minute, definitely go and take a look. So it's a good place to connect, to get started, and to be informed. And I hope it will develop into something where actually the collaboration is happening, where maybe new models of funding are happening, where advocacy could happen. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna open up, but just to react on that. Might say, I think what stems up from this is there are alternatives, there are ways to build differently, and it's not necessarily that hard. Get in touch with people who have the experience, and they'll share it with you. Let's share the microphone with the room. Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, not a question, just waving that my name's Sabrina, from Our Europe, running the Full Stack Journalism project now. So if you have any questions, and there's also Tara somewhere as well, if you want to speak to any of us about it.
Thanks. We have a few questions there and there.
Thanks. 2 years ago, Paul Radu from OCIP approached us at GFMD to let us know that their cloud computing costs were increasing by double every year. And so GFMD, with a group of members, including CORRECTIV, are working on what we're calling the Journalism Cloud Alliance to address the issues of the cost of cloud computing, but also then to find more ethical providers and more secure providers of cloud services. So we have 35 members of that cooperative already. It's open to investigative journalist organizations and GFMD members. So if you're interested in joining that coalition, we are going to be launching it next year. And Julia, I know that you're involved, and Zako as well, you're involved too, so feel free to add anything. But just to say that's, again, alternative infrastructure that we can build, which will make our lives easier, more secure, and reduce our costs dramatically, especially for those who have large data from investigative sources they need to keep safe and then to process and analyze. So Julia and Zako, please add to it, but also invitation to anyone who thinks their cloud computing costs are too expensive to think about coming and talking to us.
Yeah, it may seem very nerdy and technical, but it's actually crucially important, and GCA is a great way to answer this problem of cloud computing costs. We had a question there.
Yes, hello. I'm Pablo Aikel, Vice President of EFJ, European Federation of Journalists, and in France, General Secretary of the Union of Journalists at CGT. And as maybe you know, Felix, we are members of Escape X. Mm-hmm. Escape X is a coalition to quit X, and we are very much involved with Mastodon. A French researcher called David Chavalarias built an app called Open Portability that allows people to take their followers from X to Mastodon and Blue Sky. Have you heard about it? And
yes.
Can you share what do you think about this kind of tools that allows people and organizations to bring their followers to non-centralized apps like yours?
Yes, very briefly, I see these tools kind of as the glue or a kind of the bridges between these closed silos, and I think they have like a very important role to play. And there's a lot of innovation happening actually in this space. This space is a bit beyond of what we are focusing on, because this is basically, you know, if you think of the protocol that Mastodon is built on and the protocol that Blue Sky is built on, which, you know, we consider them to be kind of distant cousins, but it's not the same protocol. And there's someone in between building technology to make it possible to migrate the followers from one to the other. And I think this is actually always how it was supposed to be, that even if things are not interoperable, there are probably technical ways to do that. And I mean, open portability is another example for that. Yes, very, very important work.
Do we have another question? Otherwise, anyways, with the time wrapping up, maybe if you want, each of you take a minute to add conclusion comments, and then we can wrap this up. Julia? It's a bit broad.
Yes, very broad question.
Well, I'll give mine to get us started. I think that the conclusion to this conversation is if we think about this tremendous challenge that we face of building alternatives to big tech, I was a bit impressed when I saw the title of the panel, because I was like, okay. But I feel like it's not necessarily finding the answer and finding the alternative itself. It's more what we described are processes, very different ways of having this process, and processes that are based on very perhaps sometimes abstract, but very, in reality, very tangible things such as collaboration, open-mindedness, creativity, just going out and building something. And I feel like that's something that sometimes we lack a little bit in this, especially in this bit abstract conversations. All of what we're talking about is very practical. It's literally find a piece of technology that you find not exactly adequate, try to replace it, build it, code, and it's getting easier and easier to do, even for people who are not technically savvy. So yeah, it's very, and I find it even I'm very enthusiastic about it. It's a lot of possibilities existing.
I want to jump on this because I think we don't have the answer for the building alternatives to big tech, because even if we are thinking about distribution, and I know that Mastodon, for example, it's a way to go out of big tech for distribution, we don't have the solution for our internal tools, because even we think we are building things on Amazon servers. We are building things on servers that cost us tons of money, in which, I don't know, if there is a crisis and we don't have money to pay for our journalists, maybe we won't have money also to pay for our servers. And I don't know, these few days I have been talking with a lot of people that are building like products or solutions that take time from their journalists using AI. And yeah, we are all using ChatGPT and Gemini and all these things that cost us a month membership that we don't know if in a year will cost triple of what we are paying right now, or if we will be able to continue paying. And this is, I don't know, with AI, I think we are like trying to, are really more dependent of what we were before all this happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I may add something, I think that there probably isn't any way to completely get out of this vicious circle of being dependent on so many things. Like we mentioned in the beginning, there are so many things that we are dependent on technology-wise. But it's like what was super great being in this panel is seeing these different, sometimes little, sometimes bigger ways of newsrooms and media outlets and media organizations finding their ways around this and like within this to make it easier, make it a little bit easier, and trying to find this path forward. So I think that at least it is inspiring, and that is already something.
Absolutely. I think we've reached the time, but I'm very happy because I was hoping for an optimistic conclusion to this panel, and I feel like we've managed to do so. Thank you very much for your attention. Yeah, thank you.